Our first ever Women's Day event to commemorate International Women's Day 2023. Lanka Women, Sri Lanka's premier women's magazine, warmly welcomes you to this memorable celebration of women, the women who make our homes, our work, and our world more vibrant, innovative, and just. In celebrating women today, Lanka Woman is partnering with some of Sri Lanka's most prominent brands who have made this event possible. Singer Sri Lanka joins us as the lifestyle partner, Nescafe as our beverage partner, Crystal Skin Clinic as the cosmetics and wellness partner, Vivya by Hemas as our beauty partner, and last but not least, Huff and D as our clothing partner. Since the beginning of its journey in 1984, Lanka Woman has been the only magazine in Sri Lanka catering to middle and senior professional women. Today's event has been conceptualized by the marketing team of Vijay Newspapers to bring focus of the conversation on these very women, to discuss challenges they are faced with, and to shed some light on ways we can all help women grow and conquer the world in the digital age. And now it is my pleasure to invite Indika Selaheva, editor, Lanka Woman, to deliver the welcome address.
Mr. Sujan Vijayawardena, Deputy Chairman, Vijay Newspapers, Ms. Irushi Bulat Sinha, Executive Director, and Mr. Udesh Gunatunga, Executive Director from Vijay Newspapers, Ms. Sonali Tahir, representing Her Excellency Ms. Azusa Kubota, Resident Coordinator to the United Nations, and all distinguished guests present here today. Thank you for attending this event by Lanka Woman. Your presence in the midst of all your busy schedules is highly appreciated. And I do hope that we will all gain some extra knowledge at the end of this event, as well as familiarize with one another while enjoying the evening. I would like to thank and also welcome our panelists, Ms. Gauri Rajan, Group Executive Director and CMO of Sunmatch, Ms. Zahara Ansari, Country Manager, AICPA and CIMA, Mr. Dulit Herath, Founder and Chairman of Kapruka Holdings, Ms. Vinod De Silva, Chief Growth Officer at Wavemaker Group M, and Ms. Mahesha Amarasuriya, Director at MasterCard Sri Lanka, for being here as our distinguished panelists today. And I would also like to thank our sponsors, including representatives from Singer Sri Lanka, Crystal Skin Clinic, No Limit, Nescafe, and Vivya from Hemas, for your participation and contribution to this event. I would like to start with a quote: "The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world." I think this says it all in a nutshell. But 2,600 years ago, it was Lord Gautama Buddha who first accepted that women should be given rights at a time when in India, women had no place in society at all. Today, women are fighting for equity and equality in all spheres around the world. International Women's Day is celebrated around the world, and it signifies issues such as gender equality, reproductive rights, and violence and abuse against women. Eventually, these objectives have widened and strengthened with 4 United Nations Women's Conferences through the years, and today the focus is also on women's rights and participation in the political and economic process as well. I would like to go a little bit to the history of Women's Day. Going back to how it all started, IWD originated from labor movements in North America and Europe during the early 20th century and has evolved in the current times to focus on achieving equal pay, equal economic opportunity, equal legal rights, reproductive rights, subsidized childcare, and the prevention of violence against women. March 8th is the day that every year International Women's Day is marked by women's groups around the world. United Nations also commemorates this date and it is identified in many countries as a national holiday. In the UN SDGs, Goal 5, it is to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls by 2030. I quote, when women on all continents, often divided by national boundaries and by ethnic, linguistic, cultural, economic, and political differences, come together to celebrate their day, they can look back to a tradition that represents at least 9 decades of struggle for equality, justice, peace, and development. Excuse me. The United Nations theme for International Women's Day this year is Digital Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality, while the IWD theme for 2023 is Embrace Equity. So, what is the difference between equity and equality? It's crucial to understand the difference between equity and equality to achieve the required goals here. So, the IWD 2023 Embrace Equity campaign theme focuses on stressing the point that equal opportunities aren't enough. Why? Because everyone does not start at the same place. Therefore, true inclusion and belonging require equitable action. Equality means each individual or group of people is given the same resources or opportunities, but their circumstances might prevent them from gaining the required outcomes with those resources. Equity recognizes that each person has different circumstances and allocates the exact resources and opportunities needed to reach an equal outcome, which means that individuals are assessed on their circumstances and they also receive that extra bit to reach equality that they struggle for. I'm going to give you the example by IWD for this, which will explain the distinction more simply. Imagine there are two children who are being looked after by a babysitter. They are both hungry, and to be equal, she picks two apples to give them both. However, one of the children are allergic to apple. Realizing this, she picks one apple and one banana and gives each to the children. So both can satiate their hunger this way. If she had given them two apples, she would have been fair, but one child would go hungry. So there would be no inclusion here. Therefore, she identified the need or the circumstance of the child who could not eat the apple, and she was being equitable by giving a banana to the child who could not eat the apple. So both children were happy. So, therefore, basically, equity means creating an inclusive world. In the workplace, organizations need to understand this: fair pay, fair promotions, etc. Understanding that women can't give their best with the same rules. They have children and families to look after, they have homes to run, and being a wife, mother, daughter, everyone emotionally and sometimes physically too depends on the woman to decide on the most trivial things, sometimes which concerns the family. Women with babies and young children who can contribute immensely to the organization and the economy with their knowledge and expertise may sometimes drop out of work due to pressures of juggling family and work. Therefore, organizations must come up with supportive, flexible plans and systems to harness the best from these employees. Taking Sri Lanka into consideration, ours is a South Asian country that recognizes the female population as equal citizens and equally suitable to engage in the fields of political, social, economic, and cultural areas. This is a fundamental right and a statement in Article 12 of our Constitution. Chapter 3 of the Constitution of Sri Lanka provides for the protection of fundamental rights. Article 12 of Chapter 3 recognizes the right to equality and equal protection of the law, as well as the right to protection from discrimination on certain specified grounds including sex. Sri Lanka is also recognized as a leader in gender equal education in the developing world. According to World Bank statistics, the female retention rates are higher in upper secondary and tertiary education in Sri Lanka. And according to UGC, females accounted for 49% of undergraduate enrollments in STEM subjects. Overall, it is estimated that universities are producing a higher percentage of female graduates than their male counterparts. A study conducted by the University of Colombo revealed that more than 62% of university graduates are females. I quote from the journal: the unemployment rate of females with the education level of GCE-AL and above in 2019 was 11.9% compared to 5% for males. Department of Census and Statistics 2020. Despite this high rate of unemployment among females, Sri Lankan state university enrollments in 2013-2014 recorded 62.27% females in its total population. Therefore, it is evident that although females in Sri Lanka extensively engage in education, they do not actively take part in the economy. When compared to most South Asian countries, Sri Lankan women enjoy greater freedom of all areas. However, we still have a long way to go in engaging the larger population of women, which is at 52.09% in comparison to men, and utilizing their full potential for the benefit of the economy, as only 33.46% of women are engaged in the workforce, and of the total population, 91.7% of women are literate in comparison to 90.8% men. Therefore, to some extent, Sri Lankan women are enjoying more opportunities when compared to their female counterparts in other parts of South Asia. Lastly, I would like to highlight some facts about Lanka Women, which has been in existence since 1984. Lanka Woman, published by Vijay Newspapers, is the oldest and the most sought after monthly magazine for women and families in Sri Lanka. With world class quality, designing, and printing, which has reached out to the masses with its vast array of features and related timely articles, and it is very popular among women and families at home as well as among the Sri Lankan expat community overseas. The magazine reaches out to top decision makers, industry leaders, and the general public in Sri Lanka, as well as the Sri Lankan expat community and other interested readers overseas. Lanka Woman is also flying across the skies with Sri Lankan Airlines as a leisure reading magazine since October 2017, commencing with London and Melbourne flights and advancing to Paris, Frankfurt, Sydney, and Narita flights this year. And it will be visible to 4.5 million passengers a year. Therefore, the content that is featured in Lanka Woman is widely read and has a wide exposure with positive results. On that note, I would like to end wishing you all a wonderful evening and thank you once again for gracing this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Indika. Every year, we celebrate Women's Day in hope that it addresses some of the structural issues that exist for women. And as you may know, we are prepared for an insightful conversation this evening on this very topic. But before I get to that, may I kindly invite our eminent panelists as well as our keynote speaker to take the stage. While our guests take their seats, Let me introduce you to our eminent panelists this evening. From the earliest days of computing to present age of artificial intelligence, women have made untold contributions to the digital world in which we increasingly live. But their accomplishments have been against all odds in a field that has historically neither welcomed nor appreciated them. But this is a different story today, and that is what we are here to talk about. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Mahesha Amrasurya, Director at Mastercard Sri Lanka. Prior to assuming her present role, she was the Assistant General Manager, Card Services, and a member of the corporate management of Cargill's Bank. Mahesha possesses close to 20 years of experience in banking and finance, including corporate banking, retail and private banking, and cards and electronic payments. She's a fellow member of CIMA and a chartered global management accountant, as well as a member of ACCA. Mahesha holds a BA Honours degree from the University of Colombo and MBA from the Postgraduate Institute of Management, University of Jawaharlal. She was the first in the badge and valedictorian and Sri Lanka Prize winner for financial reporting in 2001 and the Young CIMA Star Gold winner in 2006. She presently serves on the CIMA Global Council representing South Asia and is also a member of the Global Membership Committee of CIMA. And next we have Vino De Silva, Chief Growth Officer and Director of Client Leadership, Wavemaker Global Sri Lanka, a person who identifies herself as a people's person. Vino specializes in building long-lasting relationships, especially with tough clients. Starting her own advertising agency, Addiction Private Limited, at just the age of 22, Vino also served in Ogilvy Action Sri Lanka as Director, Brand Team Management, and in Bates Asia Strategic Alliance as Client Service Director. Her work has been recognized by Campaign Asia as the Agency of the Year Award in 2015 and in 2022. She has gone on to win multiple coveted awards in advertising, bringing not only her work, but also Sri Lanka recognition. We also have Zahara Ansari, Country Manager, AICPA and CIMA, Sri Lanka and Maldives. Zahara is an ambitious, passionate, and energetic leader who believes in making a difference in all she does. Working across banking, business, process outsourcing, telecommunication, and professional education sectors for over 18 years, Zahara is an expert in the fields of business analysis, project management, finance transformation, and business strategy. Zahara was named in LMD's Women in Business A-list in March 2022 and was recognized in the Millennial Torchbearers A-list in 2020. A fellow member of CIMA, she holds an MBA from the University of Sri Lanka, Jawaharlal, and is a project manager, professional of PMI USA. And last but not least, Dulit Hera, the founder and chairman of Sri Lanka's largest e-commerce organization, Kapraka.com. As you all know, Dulit Herath is a well-known, highly successful serial entrepreneur who was first recognized in the year 2010, where he won the award for Sri Lankan Entrepreneur of the Year. Dulit has won numerous awards, including Asia Pacific Young Entrepreneur Award in 2013, Sri Lankan Entrepreneur of the Year once again in 2017, and CSSL ICT Leader of the Year in 2017. An Eisenhower Fellow of the President Eisenhower Foundation in USA, Dulit secured the Sri Lanka country account for Amazon.com in 2017, where local produce can now be sold on global platforms via his unique cross-border e-commerce fulfillment network. And then we have our keynote speaker, a respected business personality hailing from the hill country of Sri Lanka. Gauri Rajan is the Group Executive Director and the Chief Marketing Officer of Sunmatch Company. A graduate of the University of Bangalore who read for her MBA at the University of Peradeniya, Gauri is a professional marketer certified by the Asia Marketing Federation, who is also currently a doctoral candidate. Gauri is an executive board member of the Ceylon Chamber of Women Entrepreneurs and a fellow member at the Institute of Management, Sri Lanka. She's the first female Rotary governor to be elected to serve Rotary in Sri Lanka and the Maldives. Gauri is a double awardee of the top 50 business and professional women in Sri Lanka by the Women of the Year, Women in Management in 2013 and 2017. Her entrepreneurial DNA has influenced the company to venture into the hygiene sector given the changing business climate. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Gauri Rajan, to address the gathering.
Good evening, everyone. And firstly, let me congratulate the organizers and thank them for staging this event. In fact, when Gayani called me to speak on this particular topic, I must confess that it was quite challenging as it's about cracking the code on innovation and technology to drive towards gender equality. Because I come up from a world of running a matchbox company with, of course, an employee of over 1,000 and another 5,000 indirectly dependent on us. And in the last few years, we have been fighting with the banks to asking us to open the LC. And you know the problems we have here in Sri Lanka, especially when the Sri Lankan economy is contracted at 7% last year and 4% this year. We have been fighting to import our raw materials and to ensure that every household in Sri Lanka gets our branded, Surya branded matchbox. So that's my background. So naturally, talking on the topic of information technology to drive towards gender equality was definitely a challenge. However, what I'm going to speak to you today is more of the practical implication of this rather than dissecting it theoretically. So when it comes to gender equality, as it says on the topic, personally, I don't think there is an issue on gender equality here. Few years ago on every Women's International Day, we have been talking about breaking the glass ceiling. But I think now the glass ceiling is actually shattered. Women have excelled. They have broken the glass ceiling. And we have proven time and again. The question is not about equality. The question is, how do you on the subject of cracking the code, the question is definitely not on equality. However, I would rather like to reflect upon the DEI, that is the embracing of the concept of diversity, inclusiveness, and also the equity. Very often, many of our corporates, the companies, we do talk about this DEI concept more as a fashion statement, or maybe to decorate your annual report. But how exactly are we following this? How exactly are we embracing it? Innovation definitely happens when you embrace it in its true sense. And going further into it, if everyone had actually embraced this concept of DEI in its true sense, today we won't be having women sitting on the corporate at the boardroom, just 10% we have. Of course, a few years ago, it was about 8.2, but it has gone up, certainly. And today, it's only 10%. And I just read it recently that I think at the International Women's Day program held at the Colombo Stock Exchange, about 20 companies have come forward to pledge to increase it up to 20%, which, yes, very good. But moving on to the subject of technology. Well, yes, we do have a digital gap, the digital divide, as you may call it. And if I may refer the statistics, in the past decade, this is world over, the lack of equal access to the digital world for women and girls has cost low-income countries $1 trillion in GDP, and closing the digital gender divide could increase their DGP by much as $500 billion by 2025. And the data also reveals that this digital gap or the digital divide is so great, not only between the women and the men, but then when you compare even the boys, the young boys versus men over 35, 40, there is also a huge gap. And interestingly, not only that, there's also a huge gap between the young girls versus the older women, even if you take, say, over 35 or 40. And further, the digital divide is also there when it comes between the young girls versus the young boys. So, what exactly is the issue here? I don't think the issue is about gender equality. And let me tell you, this is just my perspective, and I know one size does not fit all. So, I'm only going to give you what I feel about it. So, the question to me is not about gender equality, because I don't think anybody out there is victimizing the women to say you have no right to pick or to get acquainted or to be oriented on this subject. If I ask, even from this audience, how many out here are actually interested in digitizing your business? Or how many are very keen on information technology? You can go to a place and see, I mean, what do people pick? Even your children, could be your grandchildren. Or you ask someone. Very often, we pick subjects like psychology, marketing, and maybe some management course. But then how many young girls are picking up on this information technology, or maybe on this subject? So I think the cracking the code really means, first of all, we how do you hone your skills, how you build your equity. The question is not about equality, it's how do you build your own equity in this subject. Because as the I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. Indika, in her welcome address, did mention about the equity concept, about how indirectly one size does not fit all, about how the mother feeds the two children who are hungry. And it's not just giving each one an apple, but then each one what suits them best. It's like giving everybody a pair of shoes, or a pair of shoes is not the case here, but giving everybody something that fits them. So here the question is, how do you build your equity? It's not the gender gap, but it's all about how you build it, how you drive towards it, and how you actually get yourself oriented in that. And let me define, to me, digitizing is all about paperless administration. It's not just going and picking up an app. It's not only that. It's not just going on Facebook or social platforms. It's not that. Digitizing in true sense is driving towards paperless administration. So the first pillar is education. Digital divide, to use education. As I mentioned, girls don't pick up the technology easily. But interestingly, I was just having a chat before even coming here from a girl who was graduating in this. And I asked her, okay, now you're doing coding. How many from your class? And she said, 5 out of 25 are only girls. However, when it comes to cybersecurity, you get a lot of young girls now getting into it, which I think is a good thing. And from my experience on this particular topic, let me relate to you, is in the post-COVID, I personally was involved in ensuring that from the digitizing our entire distribution system and the sales system, from the point of getting the order from the retail up to the stock taking at the distributor point, and also up to the stock taking and all inventory control at the manufacturing unit. All this is completely digitized. And one thing I can tell you, that we ensured that all our employees were also educated on it. And they were not people with a background, or they never came from this IT background or any computer science. But then we did spend a lot of time educating them on it. And I can tell you, the gender biasness, what you may call it, reduced greatly, because now it doesn't matter whether you're a woman or whether you're a man. Because so for me, I would say education is the key in order to improve or to push the equity in this. And not only that, we were also able to evaluate the efficiency of all the employees and exactly what's happening. And that's absolutely driven by data and not by who likes whom. So this is personally, I can say, how a company from the outskirts of Colombo, in a category like ours, has adopted into this. So if we can do it, like us, many also can do, but provided that it's not a question about gender equality, but that how you basically improve your equity in this. So this is something that I thought I must share with you, because it's no more the logistics part is no more male driven as far as our company is also concerned, as we are also into haulage and everything. Now it's all about anyone can, whether you're a woman or man, doesn't matter. So that's the status that we are in. And I must say that whilst this is a great topic to talk, and especially to celebrate the International Women's Day, and I noticed the deputy chairman of this company is also here, and he being a male, which I think is something really inspirational. And an organization like yours, especially a media like Vijay News, whilst it's good that you all have staged a program like this, I think you can certainly go to the next step, because you all do have the voice where you can go to the next step to see how you all can be a catalyst in driving this at a national level and ensuring that this digital divide, at least you all can be a catalyst to ensure, to see how this digital divide can be closed, how this gap can be closed, especially in the background of Sri Lanka. So with these few thoughts, I would like to sit back and join the rest of the panelists, whom I can see. As you can see, you have been listening to their wonderful CV, and most of them, or all of them, are role models in their categories. So I look forward to that exchange of information. And I'm sure by end of this session, we will all, including me, will leave with a better understanding of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Although the Sri Lankan landscape is better in comparison to that of our region, like Gauri rightly said, a persistent gap keeps women from unlocking technology's full potential. So to discuss this and a woman's role in the digital age, we have with us the panel today. And to moderate the panel on cracking the code, innovation, technology for a gender equal future, we have our very own Gani Punchiheva, Head of Marketing, Digital and Integrated Media, Vijay Newspapers Limited. Gani, over to you.
Thank you, Kalani. I believe we have been seeing a lot of panel discussions happening very frequently these days. And even today in the morning, we witnessed one. And there's a one common thing that we always see is it's a one lone woman in the panel. So we thought of changing the roles today. And so we have a one lone gentleman here. So Dulit, coming to you first, I would like to get your free thoughts about this topic we are discussing today, because we know that you are an advocate for women empowerment, especially in leadership roles. So what are your thoughts about cracking the code, innovation for a gender equal future?
So I think the biggest advantage is that now the level of access you have to information. You know, all of you here, or pretty much any woman today, has this magic wand or this ninja sword in your bag, this smartphone. If you look at, just go back 15 years, how difficult it was to get a cab, how difficult it was to find directions, how difficult it was to book a hotel, how difficult it was to, if you learn a subject, what? So now, from Google Maps to WhatsApp to YouTube to, if you look at all these technology platforms that is right now on your palm, it has like really, I think, empowered and, let you guys, kind of fly when if you go back 15 years, there was always that gap. So I think that's the biggest advantage right now.
Yeah. Mahesha, how about you? What do you think of this topic?
Yeah, so I think while agreeing with Dolit that the gap definitely has been reducing, I think there is still certain amount of gap, especially when it comes to like developing countries, rural areas. When we take it from a global perspective, internet penetration, there is a gap. No, the gap is reducing because if you look at men being 53%, women being 41%, so it's not a big gap, but there is a gap. And in Sri Lanka, if you take basically like digital literacy, there is a gap of like 54% for men and 54% for women and 60% for women. And taking like girls in the age of about 15, how many of them want to go into technology fields? It's like about 2%. And in the ICT field, it's about 30% only who are women. So I think there's still room to improve because if women do have this digital gap, that will actually make them disadvantageous in terms of their access to education and also financial inclusion and also other information of the world. So that's my take on that.
Thank you, Mahesha. Sahara, coming from an education sector, I think you have a lot to add on to this.
Yeah, so agreeing with the rest of the panelists and our keynote speaker, a lot has been done, but I honestly feel that's not enough. Perhaps being in the cities, we might find our ladies, our girl children having a lot more access. But going back just a year or two, I am sure all of us remember that during COVID, during the lockdowns, a lot of our girl children did not have access to education, right? I mean, on top of things like period poverty and all of that, was this issue of not having a device to access education. So there is still more to be done, and perhaps organizations like yours, like the media, can do so much more. I know companies like Dialogue to a lot came in, they brought in the technology, they tried their best to assist, but there is more to be done. And we heard, right, there's only about 31%, I think Indika was talking about it, 31% women who are employed. Imagine of the 50-odd% women out there in this country, if they were upskilled, immense potential of contributing not to anyone else, to our own country's GDP. So there's more to be done.
Exactly. We know you represent the creative industry and the advertisers. So what's your take on cracking the code, the innovation for gender equal future?
Thank you. Like you said, I represent advertising, right? So I'd like to really see more women be a part of our industry. There's a lot of technology, there's a lot of innovation that's happening in our country, but there isn't enough women representation when it comes to developing messages for the women, right? So I believe that one part of that could be technology and innovation, because you need graphic, you need all that. But I don't know what the block is, but there is a need. There is definitely a need for women representation.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Gauri, actually representing third generation family business, you have the entrepreneurship in your DNA. So what is your thoughts on how we, as the women of certain professions that we have our own successes, can support the process of digitizing the business of the small and medium scale entrepreneurs we have, especially when it comes to the women entrepreneurs, because it's your cup of tea, I would rather say, to talk about entrepreneurship.
Well, I would of course say it's main thing is you need to introduce these from your schools. How many children are at an early age studying about entrepreneurship, studying about information technology, because even here, I think it comes in as a subject. I'm as an optional, and at the age of 15, I think they choose and they start studying at the age of 16. So that culture, that system has to change. Now, when you compare it with Switzerland and all that, they are a child of 8 years. I mean, at the age of 8, they are studying even on information technology. And on the other hand, it's also important that we also have a support system, even at the national level. Now, example, if I may take our industry, just few years ago, just after, maybe about 2 years ago onwards, there was a time they said they are going to restrict you can't import certain raw materials. But then what was the support system we had here? I remember writing to the Sri Lanka Institute of Nanotechnology, who's supposed to support in these to find alternatives. Sent about 2-3 emails, tried contacting them, not even a response. So where is the support system here? So I think the support system has to be there at all levels. If you really need to drive towards innovation, be it whether it's for women or be it whether it's for men. And also on the, I just thought I will add with regards to the why, even though the gap is fully not closed yet on the digital gap, I think it's also something to do with your commercial value for this operation. Now, if you see the last year, about 40% of the people in this industry have left. So I think there is potential now. And this is a good way to move forward, because definitely you can get the gap to come to a close, despite the fact that only 1 in every 5 households have access to computers and all that. That's a different subject altogether.
Yes. Thank you, Gauri. Sahara, what do you think are the strategies that the education sector or the educational institutes can adopt to ensure the advancement of innovations and the technology benefit all equally? How the education sector can get into this?
Okay, I'll probably start with one example from my own organization. So when COVID happened, all of us got locked down, right? And then we introduced something called remote exams. No one would have imagined doing a CIMA exam in your own room, in your own home. Yes, it was invigilated by a proctor who was seated on the other side, but end of the day, imagine doing such a global prestigious examination, enabling that to happen. And in terms of CIMA, we've been using technology to make education accessible, not just for the ladies and the women, but to anyone using technology. We moved from paper exams to online exams as far back as 2005. That was the time I was doing my certs. So a lot of technology has to be used. So one strategy would be using them, to making it accessible at a lower cost, an affordable way. So maybe you might have to work with organizations on that side of things as well. I have a couple more points I actually listed down because I wanted to share this. Workplaces can also tie up with educational organizations to ensure that their workforces are reskilled and relevant for the times. Just like what Gauri shared, right? If she didn't take that attempt to, get her people to be able to use digital stuff, it's an education of sorts. And if she didn't get that done, then she would have also seen impact on the business side. So it's not just school students or university students, but it's also in the workplaces. And we need to remove technophobia. I believe it's still there. One, mainly because I think, this is stuff we see in the news, by the way. So things, how people have misused their phones, how they ended up doing, maybe the girl children or the young boy children. We even heard of this kid who jumped off the building, right, in Valavata or something, because the phone was taken off. So how to use technical stuff in a right way? It's not just the responsibility of the parents, but also the educational institutes or the educational organizations, how to use it for your own good. Then comes promoting STEM areas for careers. It's not just the parents or the schools, but also, the professional organizations, the companies in this country and the world who should be promoting, because STEM will allow so many careers to take off. Seated here, I'm seeing Jayomi there. She started Z Messenger and she started that kind of careers when we were in school, something that we never thought was possible, right? And I'm sure there are loads of people like Jayomi out there. And we just need to trigger their potential. And that responsibility lies again with people tasked with education. So my final point would be to share stories of success, that what educational organizations have done and how people have used it towards creating success. That will help inspire a lot more as well.
Thank you, Sahara. Dulit, coming to you, you're known to be an advocate for women representation in leadership roles and also in technological roles. So what impact you to take this stand? And what are your thoughts about how the role of the technology and innovation in creating gender equity?
Right. So I'll take some examples from Kaproka itself, so it's more practical and easy to understand. So Gauri, you were saying you were trying to push the stock exchange boards from 8% to 10%, right?
20.
Yes, you grown to what? 20%. Yeah. So right, they're trying to push to 20%. So Kaproka right now, it being a technology company, we are the highest ratio of women versus men. So we have 60% board members are female. And that, it's an untraditional technical company.
Yes.
So it's even harder sometimes, you might think, to get more women leaders to be on a tech company. So it's definitely possible, and I see this. It was done by choice, right? It wasn't like automatically it didn't happen like that, because this is a company I started. It's not like I had to bring in board members from outside. So that being the most important. Secondly, I think if I look at most my vertical categories within Kaproka, I see so many women leaders making leaps of advantages. And I think there are about 4 or 5 areas that I can pick where those women leaders outshine men. One is, I think, when it comes to empathy, it's a huge trend that I see in women leaders. Like my HR department is, if I look at that department as an example, and if I take the trait of empathy, there it is, that success story. Because I've had different types of leaders in our HR department, and now that the women leadership has taken over, it's a different place today. And you can take, I think also another trait is the perspective and the, I think there's a broader view in women leaders. The perspective is much more broader. Like, I'll give you an example. Again, our product category department is run by a lady, and this is from clothing to electronics to we have what 200 different categories. All that is led by this lady who has a complete different perspective that I couldn't find anywhere else in our company. So she naturally came up, but it's a second trait. So the first one was the empathy, and second is I see the perspective is different. I think the third one is the attention to detail, right? And so our quality assurance department is also run by a lady, and she's very unpopular. Because she'll go through the tiniest thing and stop orders saying this is not going today because of this. Like, so that's her job, and she's very good at it, and she knows how to balance it off. That, and I think the fourth trade is, I think I find women are more cross-compatible in cross roles. They can do multiple things at the same time.
Multitasking.
Multitasking, but in a company environment. So, and I have found, so this example here is, I have entrepreneurs in the company. So it's it is a less popular term than entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are people who are inside the company but runs a team, feel and runs like an entrepreneur within the company. Everybody can't be entrepreneurs, right? So, and every time I want to start like a new venture or a new experiment, I think most of the time I end up picking a woman entrepreneur within the company to run it, because they look after it from that first inception. And then it just, I don't know, I had very good luck with it. So I think those are the 4 traits that I see in couple.
Thank you, Dulit. I think you have taken the innate qualities of us women and then used them for the success story of your company. So we know, let's get into the advertising and the media. What is the role of the creative industries? How the technology and innovation can, in the creative industry, can be used to like just to make the equity and the gender equal future dream or the talk that we are talking through, make it come true?
Well, I think one of the things is diversification. I think we need more participation. I think Dulit is already doing that. Nice to hear there's a 60-40 split. Is that, when you have a diverse team, right, heading technology and innovation, with more women participation, you get different perspectives. I think that's exactly what Dulit also said. In order to do that, I think we need to create safe environment for them to work in, because there's a little more work-life balance that we may need to handle. Another thing is, I think Sahara said that, is maybe to collaborate with women-led organizations so that our messaging gets out there when it comes to gender equality. And I think at the end of the day, if we encourage women to get into more technology, innovation, and or advertising in the roles we can play, I think the perspectives will be better at the end of the day, and therefore your messaging might therefore be a little bit better. So I hope I answered the question.
Yes, thank you, Vino.
No worries.
Yeah. Mahesha, you spoke of the digital financial inclusion, I believe. So talking about the digital financial inclusion, what sort of gender responsive technology is out there that we can adopt in the Sri Lankan context, or do we already have certain gender responsive technological things that we are having at the country? Maybe we are not aware of it. So what's your take on that?
Okay, Gani, I'll take one successful example from MasterCard itself, a global program that has been a success story across the globe. So there's a program called Girls for Tech, which is now been around the world for like 8 years. It is a program to encourage young girls to develop, as Zara mentioned, STEM skills. So science, technology, engineering, and mathematics skills from a very young age, as about 8 or 10 years old. So it's developed within MasterCard using the expertise of the company, and is based on global science and math standards, and focusing on areas like encryption, coding, fraud management, analysis, that kind of areas. So across the world, about 3 million girls have been reached, and over 50 countries, and translated to 20 languages. So I think alongside MasterCard replicating it in Sri Lanka, this is a program something which a lot of the private sector to other organizations can take on to encourage girls to develop interest, to develop a liking to digital tech side from a young age. So very importantly, that will break the stereotyping of certain jobs, because certain like tech jobs are considered to be male oriented jobs. So from a very young age, if that stereotype is broken, when they do leave out of school and start jobs, that it would be just normal for them to go into specialize in those areas.
Thank you, Mahesha. So, Gauri, actually, Dulit, I'm taking over from Dulit and coming to you. Dulit spoke of the entrepreneurs. So, as an entrepreneur, within your organization, as well as for the women entrepreneurs out there, what do you think is the role of established entrepreneurs like you all and also the organizations, professional bodies, media. What are their role to empower them, support them to crack the code, to get into the gender equity, and then to get themselves more digitally enabled? What do you think? Because you are an experienced entrepreneur, so you have taken the stand to support your workforce as well.
Well, if you look at our industry, we have about 85% females. That's at all levels when you see. And as I said you earlier, even, you need to inculcate the interest in them, firstly, because sometimes I suppose, Dulita, you said about in your company, but then it is Colombo based mainly. Yes. So when it comes to outskirts, not everybody has I don't think they really understand what's this entrepreneurship is about. They think, it's something like one of those startups. You start, and then how you fail. So, and also their parents, to start with, especially the girls, the parents want them to get an education and actually go to a pre-COVID, this was the issue, even now, get a government job, because probably they think that's the best way to get them married, or to say that my daughter is having this kind of a job. And in addition, we also had a lot of youth leaving with the current situation. So having all these challenges, little things that we do from our company as such, we have tied up with the University of Peradeniya, where we get their graduates to come here and we do give them internship. We do provide mentoring. So that kind of a facility we do provide. And in addition, we also have this system where we ask everybody to send their ideas to us. And when we do pick up those ideas, and they are also, we also give them an additional incentive and give recognition. So those are things we do promote, say, on a monthly basis, where we involve them. And these are the little things that we can focus on in promoting entrepreneurship. But then it's all about how they should be given the right direction on it. And the interest level should come from them.
Thank you. Dulit, coming to you from what you stopped earlier, what are your takes on that, how women can empower them digitally? How we, like, as a male perspective, what do you think is lacking in the female, maybe the entrepreneurs or the workforce or the people who want to aspire into the leadership roles?
I think it's the speed of adaptation into technology is the biggest gap.
Speed of
The speed of adaptation. Like in this room, I mean, everybody here knows how to use Google Maps to all these tools that I talked about, Uber to everything. But if you, again, as you said, if you go out of urban cities, how many women would know how to use Google Maps to this, even the basic tools? Right? They have it in the phone, they have it, and so you need to really push them to, like, even a bank transfer, put on your HNB or commercial bank app, use the app to do it. But everybody in urban cities, women do it, but when you get to the second, third, fourth level cities, that's not there. But that's another one gap I see. The other one is about even the urban women. I think they need to be on top of things. Like, if I ask this room, how many of you use ChatGPT today to help with your work? There'll be few hands coming up. I know you use it, right? And it's just, my wife's here. I've been like, she's been telling me, please set up my account. You get, so it's that is how you stay on top of it. It's not about the Google Maps or the Ubers and like the basic stuff. And it's just, I think there are a lot of new revolutions like ChatGPT it's coming up. And I would really love to see women being like really on top of it.
Yeah, thank you, Dul. Can you give us a little bit of shed some light about, from your exposure to other countries, what are the things that the other countries are doing? How the women in other countries, maybe in the South Asian context, differ from the Sri Lankan? So maybe we can take the message across. There are a lot of audiences from different sectors we have, so we can take the message across, what we can do to empower ourselves more digitally.
I think countries like Sri Lanka are very ready to do these kind of transformations. Because if you take a country like Pakistan or India, and It's much more difficult to do this kind. Even Middle East, it's much more difficult to do these kind of revolutions. We are a very open-minded country, and I think our culture is exactly right to do this kind of change without and to that point, I think women should be more politically active, and to do that as well, now you have a digital voice. I mean, you can simply, if you are a real political leader, and if you are a woman, you just get on Twitter and you build your audience. You don't have to do all these campaigns anymore, right? So this technology can really embrace them.
Yeah, thank you, Dalit. Let's get into you now. Okay, so we cannot talk about digitalization or digital world without talking about the digital safety for women, as well as without talking about the digital violence. So there's a specific gender-based violence that we witness very often. Maybe it will be focused on the female politicians. Maybe it is focused on the female entertainment industry representative. So from the creative industry, I believe that storytelling is a very powerful way of narrating stories, and a very powerful tool used by the creative industry. So what are your thoughts about using the creative industry or the storytelling specifically, how we can combat this digital violence maybe?
Yeah, you kind of asked the question and gave the answer, but yeah, I think, see, you're right, story. So if there is violence going on let's say digital platforms, right, about women, right, for targeting women, I think those are the stories that you need to bring to life and retarget on those very same platform, right, and make it relevant, right? Make it relevant to the men, right? Because I'm sure their brother, the sister, mother, that story, and you use, I think, creativity at the end of the day. Our advertising is about stories, right? We sell brands, we do commercials. It's all stories, right? So why not use that power to take the message across, and and say no to, absolutely no to gender violence, because it's affecting people, right? It's very dangerous. So I think you turn it around, you do a 360, you use stories, you make it relevant, you do it in a contextual way, and retarget to those who are actually seeding this, and seed it back on those same platforms. If somebody is using Twitter, feed them back on the same platform. I think again, storytelling is very powerful, but I think you need to use the technology that it's coming from and back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mahesha, coming to you. We spoke of the digital literacy in terms of fintech and the financial inclusion. So what do you think about, like, it can be an entrepreneur, it can be a working mother, it can be a profession, but how innovation and technology, especially in the fintech and the digital, like the finance sector, can help achieving the goal of gender equity that we are talking of?
Yeah. So basically, having the digital literacy on the forefront will enable a woman to get access to information. So that in itself will place that woman at a better bargaining power, whether at a professional level or at a personal level at home. I think that is point number one. And the second one is on financial independence, which really helps to support an overall empowered woman. Because if you do have access to, you have digital literacy, so I'm referring to being not just being able to use an app, but I'm talking about going cashless, rather paperless, going paperless, so where you are able to set up a digital online platform, a payment gateway. So if you are having access to such, if you are able to create such platform for yourself, so whether you have a small business, you want to sell your own, even whatever the small business you do, it could be food, it could be clothing, it could be jewelry, whatever you do, your market becomes international. So that way, that gives access to finance. And secondly, even you could work part-time, you could work anywhere to any company in the world, because now remote working is greatly accepted everywhere. So again, these two will support a woman to get financial independence that will make a truly empowered woman. And the other thing is, it also, if you have like efficient management of finance. So now it's again not about doing an online fund transfer, but going to the next step. How many of the women are able to set up automated bill settlements? For a busy woman, I mean, to set up all your utility bills to be settled. So since you said professionals as well, the ladies here at this forum, everyone is running around. So if you have to pay all your bills online one by one, that itself will also take about 15, 20 minutes of your time. So set up automated bill settlements. All your bills are settled with the credit card and you sell the credit card in one go. So that kind of thing. And then for mothers, there are like a lot of apps that support to track your child's development. So my personal example, I mean, there's an app called Wonder Weeks, which tracks child development and going into very details of like, you know, how you could as parents stimulate your children at different ages and what you can do. So that all gives access to education, access to finance. So I think that's where digital supports women to be a truly empowered woman.
Thank you, Mahesha. I believe that the audience have a lot of questions that they want to ask, but before that, I would like to get the closing remarks from each of you. So let's start from Sahara.
So on this topic, there's so much, like I said, that can be done by all of us. And it starts with each of you. Whether it's yourself using technology, just like the example that Mahesha shared, or enabling and empowering someone else to use technology. One of the things, like I said earlier, where we spread the stories, like we know said, spread the messages. So if you know something, if you know how digital is helping you, go out there, share that message. One of the points we were talking about was the safety space, right?
Yes.
So I remember this lady who started this thing called Not Your Nangi.
Yes.
She goes to all the schools and she educates. It's not for herself. She's doing it for our children, for our girl children, for our even boy children for that matter, right? So use this for your advantage. And for those who are perhaps in media, perhaps in authority, in power, where you can probably control discrimination happening in any sort of way, take action. Even start something small, because if you do something really big and bold, it'll take you time. You can't make policy changes in this country. We all know that, right? How long it takes. But start somewhere with what you can do. And let's help one and all.
Thank you. Mahesha?
So two things I would like to share. One is on mindset. I think that is the most important thing. How each of us change the mindset of ourselves and others around us to create this gender equity, to create, to empower women. And that has to then comes to the second point of starting it at a young age. So it's not about deciding what you want to be or your interest in a subject matter when you're 18 or 19. But I think it starts as young as you're a toddler or from home. So parents have a great role to play by showing that equity towards their sons and daughters, and also avoiding any sort of job stereotyping. Encourage the children to take up whatever the profession or whatever the job they want. So this would work both ways. I mean, it would work for boys also. If a boy wants to be a model, it should not be looked down upon. You know, a boy could be a model, the son could be the model, and the daughter could be the IT tech wizard. So that's still okay. So that, and then I think the message going down to school levels, because the children's mindset are formed mainly through their parents and then through the teachers, because they are looking up to these teachers and parents when they are small. So that's the party we need to really reach down to and make sure that mindset change happens from a very young age. So that's my closing remarks.
Dalit?
So I think the digitally empowered women's future is very, very bright, and in Sri Lanka and globally. I gave examples from Kopruka being a technological company, that how major role is played by women. And I've given examples of how they outshine men. But let me also give you an example of even from my home front, how I see that. So I have a 17 and an 18-year-old son and daughter, and both brilliant kids. But we all discuss very openly that my success is going to be my daughter. And because my son, he's going to be the CTO, he's the IT guy, but the leadership skills we are openly discussing at home. You're the one. So I think it's very bright.
Thank you. Thank you. Gauri?
Well, there's one message I like to actually give, as most here are also women. And on the subject of entrepreneurship and why there's so many numbers less here in this country, is very often we overlook as to how you improve that. And networking is something that's very important for an entrepreneur. And even not only the first generation, but even for you to go to the second and the third, networking is something very important. And here in Sri Lanka, what we find is the Sri Lankan entrepreneur is more clannish to himself in comparison to the Western entrepreneur. We are, because when you take a business from the startup to the business stage, and then also to a stage when your business is matured, you need to have different types of networks, starting with social networks, which I think we Sri Lankans are very good because you have your close family and friends. But then when you go to the next stage, you need to develop your business networks, where we are not that great, but we are okay. But then for you to sustain it, you really need strategic networks, which I think most of us are weak, or most. And that is something you need to have these three in place. And then that's how you naturally even be able to innovate new products. And so I think this is a message I like to leave here, especially in the background of so many ladies here, because sometimes we think networking is bad, going here, going there, and maybe for security reasons or whatever. But then that's the key as to how your business can be sustained. So that's the message that I like to give.
Thank you, Gauri. That's why Lanka Women is here, to give you a safe space to network. So we know your closing remarks.
Thanks, Gani. I think achieving gender equality is a shared responsibility. I think all of us have to do this. There's this saying, there's a boys' club, right? I think it's time women started a girls' club and seriously help lead this initiative. Start by paying it forward. If somebody has helped you to come up, pay it forward, give it back, and hopefully to a woman. I think it starts with us, and I'd like to wish all of you all the best in doing so.
Thank you. So the audience, it's time to embrace equity and come forward. Just, you won't get this type of eminent panel all the time. So are there any questions that we can? There's the time to pick their brains, gain knowledge from them. Yes. Can someone pass the mic over there, please? Jeremy.
Hello, thank you so much. That's excellent panel. And I just kind of, thanks, Ara. That was unexpected mention here. But just want to add to the point, because Dulit, finally, I was waiting for Dulit to finally, I mean, it's not only the question for Dulit, but he mentioned about the, kind of gave a glimpse of the massive transformation we are going through, having the open AI, ChatGPT on our, basically on the fingertips, right? It's like a magic wizard where you can do anything, and actually threatens disruption of so many other possible roles in the industry. And I just wanted to ask, I mean, since we are talking about the whole gender equality and inclusion, because it's still, I think in my own experience as well, it's still, no matter so much of discussion going, there are still certain policies or certain in terms of when you are screening for certain innovations, especially women, that prevents women from fully participating in innovations? For example, even if you're a group of women or maybe a woman applying to a CTO job, there's a certain degree of kind of a lens that you look at a female candidate versus a male candidate, right? So I was just wondering, because I just so interested the point that especially open AI, currently I just spoke to a friend like two days ago, and what she told me, the whole entire recruitment process, up to a greater degree, now it's done via AI. So that takes away all these kind of biases, because AI doesn't kind of bother whether it's you are a female or a male or your ethnicity, but it screens the candidate through the other parameters. So do you think with the advent of AI, open AI coming in, that would enable women participation in innovation beyond the recruitment screening, or how it could actually change our lives to make us more empowered or more give us more space to equally participate in the economy?
Can I take? Yeah, I think the open AI, all these platforms will come and flatten the space. It will just, make it 50-50. And again, the CTO, I mean, even my CTO is a female. She's only 28, running the entire IT department of the company. So there's very little bias. It depends on the leader of that company and that culture of each company, right? And from there only it really trickled down to all the departments, verticals. So if the top leadership looks at it differently, it trickles down. But to your point, all these new tools, this new wave of tools that are coming are going to flatten things. It's not going to make a bias. Hope I answered your question.
So are there any questions from the audience? I think this is something that reflects that if there are a lot of men in the audience, I think we could see a lot of hands raising up. So take the chance. Are there anything that you would like to discuss or bring to our attention or want us to discuss further? Yes. Can you pass the mic there, please?
Thank you. Very insightful presentations, and thank you. It's been a fantastic evening. My name is Rosh. I'd like to know what all the panelists have to say about educating the parents before the children on this whole issue. Because if we are going to actually educate the children on STEM, as Maheshi said, and going forward, networking, etc., I work a lot in the rural areas. And what we discussed today, for the rural areas, it's a bit tough on them. They don't have internet, etc. And just to give you one story, we met this lady who had come up with Kohila powder. And she had no way of marketing it. She brought we just went for some other thing, and she came running and asked, "Can you help me?" She had absolutely no way of marketing it. So I took a packet and went home and made Kohila candle out of it. It was just amazing, just pure Kohila. And then I thought I have to help her. So now we are going to start a factory there in that area, simply because she met us. But otherwise, tell me how these people in the rural areas can be educated to use what all of you said today. Any one of you, it doesn't matter.
Can I give it a go? Yeah.
Yes.
So I think if there are more stories like what you just said, and at village level, the whole village will now look up to this lady. When you set up that factory, when she starts making money, when people see trucks going into her house, and when people see her buying a car, that's what's going to change that village. And there will be a second entrepreneur, third entrepreneur, like that. So I feel like when you told me this story, I wish this happens in every, there are big 43 towns. Like this is, I'm not talking small towns. Madra, Gaul, Kataragama, Anuradhapura, these are big 43 towns that are still, blank sheets where there are almost zero entrepreneurship. So more stories is, I think, is the most important thing to empower the digitization here.
What I would like to know is how to take it to the parents of these children in those areas, the schools, how they can access what you just said. They don't even know about this.
So that's what I meant by having success stories. If one person in that village reached out and managed to get somewhere, it will inspire others to also somehow try to get it, because there's no one solution to this, right? This is not going to, that tomorrow every school is not going to teach OpenAI. So it's going to be a journey, but I think if there are more stories, that this story is going to go fast.
Yeah, if I may add, I'm not sure whether I understood the question correctly, but is your question how she can take that product to the world? Is that the question?
No, my question is how the parents can be educated in those areas to access what was spoken about today.
I think-
Because they don't, for them this will be jargon. They are not educated enough, the parents.
No, yes. Then, of course, as Dulit says, it's the parents have to see the success story. Now, example, me, when I got into my family business, because that was not my plan, actually, because I wanted to be a lawyer, but then I lost my dad quite early, and I did get involved. Of course, what I studied was psychology. That's my first degree. And when my father just started mentoring me, it was then that I lost him. But me being the first woman in this generation to get involved in the business, naturally people were not too sure as to whether I could handle it. But then I had to work double hard to prove it. And for that, I had to start educating myself on management. I didn't feel shy about having a degree and then restarting from the foundation. So educate, or maybe to build that confidence in a parent, especially when you're starting at the first level. The one is when they see for themselves, then they change. Now, earlier when I had to take an idea to the board, of course, there's nothing, my parents, my family, they support me a lot, but then it was natural that my cousin, who is a boy, his idea will be better. But then now that barrier is not there, because they have the confidence. It's not whether it's the boy or the girl or whether a man or a woman, so that education happens when they see the success of, or rather how confident building happens within that child. So it will take time, as you know. Hope I have answered.
Thank you.
So I see two solutions to this. Directly, it might not be possible, because even if you call a parents meeting, half these parents can't come. Not because they don't want to, because they are hardworking earners, right? They need to work somewhere to earn on that day. So perhaps, again, media, whatever media that people in such rural masses would look at. It could be the news that they watch. They'll probably gather into someone's home and then watch the news. Or it could be like a media like Facebook, which a lot of people have, right? Even if they don't have anything else. So Samaja Satkaryak wage, you can do that, right? Maybe if some organization who passionately care about it, they can perhaps take the message of this, because then it moves from just the urban cities to the rural talent. For example, there are BPO companies that work out of other villages, like Informate, John Kills. Such potential is there. So yes, we can convince the parents by telling them that there are such careers out there for your children. Number one. Two, kids who are already in school right now, and perhaps those who are in universities right now, would someday be these parents, right? So why not start educating them there? At least generations after, they will be aware of it.
Hi. I think very insightful. So my question is, we have 10,100 schools in this country. Out of that 1,000, only science is taught only in 1,000 schools. So there are lots of schools where we don't have science education. Now, if for us to crack the code, we need to have science, STEM education, right? So I know the role of advertising, media, advertising industry have a huge role to play. Still, when you look at our teledramas or the advertisements, we hardly see girls, young girls, women, and I'm happy to say singer recently showing a man and a woman both sharing their roles in their kitchen, at least at that level, using some equipment, right? So I think we all have a role to play. So what are your thoughts on how to bridge this gap? I mean, at a ground level, we have a huge problem while we try to fly, but maybe Vijay Group have a huge role to play, and media industry, especially advertising, and also tech. Dulit, you have taken it to a different level, Gauri, through your entrepreneurial journey. I mean, how can we really bridge this divide? I'm not expecting big answers, but at least something that we can do.
So I would think again, it's actually like a little baby steps at a time, because none of us will be really able to give an answer or work out a solution that will reach out to the entire population. So it will be one person out there who found this one lady and supported her and built a factory. It would be another one company going and setting up a company, a BPO outside Colombo, and another individual who might share his or her success story in the papers. And it's little by little, and it'll gradually, it's a gradual process. So starting, I mean, taking it out at different levels, attacking at different points. So we won't be able to reach out all the parents, but we may be able to reach out 5% of the parents, which is better than reaching nobody. And so I think it's every one of us also have a responsibility there to, at least in our own ways, support in the society to get someone on board, to get the understanding across, to get this message across, so that overall we could see even another 2 years, 3 years down the line, or as the next generation comes, there will be a difference.
So on behalf of Vijay, I would like to pledge one thing, that we will do our next workshop outstation, focusing Sirikata maybe, I believe, because that is what we need to do. And just to add something else, that actually when we wanted to get the audience here today, we had so much of difficulty. Actually, we requested from the Ministry of Defense to send us professional female officers in their respective forces. But unfortunately, we can see only, I believe, from the representation from the Navy and the Army, I believe. So they are itself, like, we had sent the email communications, there were calls, but then again, it was difficult to get them to come here. But here we have different representation from the professionals. We have doctors, we have in the government sector, we have private sector. So I believe the audience here responsibility today is to take this message across. Wherever, to your circles, go to your companies, go to your colleagues, and to your families, and to your community. So we are all talking about learning something here. So I think it's a pledge that we need to take. Whatever we are learning today should be taken back to the society and the community and to our families. So are there any questions, or can we, I believe it's, we are okay to wrap now? Yeah.
I think, as you mentioned earlier, that taking any message across to the rural areas could be done much better through the schools, because parents might not have an idea of how to go about it, what their children should be doing, but the teachers and the school principal or whoever, they are the ones who we look up to. So they are the role models, and they, whatever they say, children or even parents highly respect that. So they are the ones who should be informed. I think that is an easier way to take any message across to the rural areas, because every village in the country has a school. I'm wondering what you think of that because I think that is an easier way than going and setting up and trying to get people's confidence because it's a matter of trust as well. But parents or villagers, they trust the schools, the teachers. So I believe that is one way we can empower villagers, rural areas.
I believe so. Yes.
Thank you, Indika. Thank you, Gani and our panelists, for that perceptive and insightful dialogue this evening. But before we let you go, we have some tokens of appreciation. If I may invite Mr. Sujan Vijayawardena, Deputy Chairman of Vijay Newspapers, to hand out our tokens of appreciation. Sir, if you can join us. First, we have Gauri Rajan. Vino De Silva. Dulit Herat. Zahara Ansari. And last but not least, Mahesh Amar Surya. And of course, not forgetting our very own Gani. Thank you, Mr. Vijayawardena. If I may now ask our Chief Operating Officer, Janaka Ratnakumara, to join us. Ms. Gauri Rajan. Vino De Silva. Mahesh Amar Surya. Zahara Ansari. And of course, Dulit Herat. Gani Punchiheva. Our partners are very grateful to have you panelists on board, so we have a little more to go. If I may invite Indika Selaheva, editor Lanka Women, to join us in giving our guests some tokens of appreciation. Dulit, may I start with you? Mahesha? Zahara? Vino? Gauri? And Gayani, who has played a huge part in organizing all of this. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again. Let us now direct our attention to the screen for a few messages from our partners who made this day possible.
Now everyone at our home loves to cook. Cooking can also be fun if made easy.
With Singer's trusted range of appliances, make your life in the kitchen easy. Singer Kitchen Appliances. Happiness is homemade.